What's up, guys? So this is Amin at Maktaba Online, and today we are going to be doing lesson 2. Now it is a little different. Notice here I do have a whiteboard simulator type situation. So I'm doing it this way just because from the last video it was a little difficult to see everything. So I'm using this because I think it's a little bit easier, but the writing may be a little funny just because I'm using a stylus and it's not the same as like actual hand-to-hand application with some of this stuff. So anyways, let's just jump straight into it. I think this will be a little bit easier for you. So this is lesson 1B, part 2 to the video. And we're going to be applying some of the exact same principles from the last video into this video. And that's just simply where understanding an application is concerned. But don't worry, I'll walk you through the letters again and go over some of those quote unquote special rules. And I'll just give you some special tips to kind of help you with memorization and pronunciation. So without further ado, Yelabina, let's just start and just jump straight into it. So it looks like we have 10 letters. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner, these are the names. So you have Ray, which is the R. You have Zay, which is the Z sound. You have Seen, which is the S sound. You have Sheen, which is the Sh sound. You have Sald, which is a dark S. And as we go through this, I'll explain this to you so it's not as confusing. Because if you notice, there are some letters that repeat. So it can be confusing, but I'll explain that. You have Dod, which is the D sound, the dark D sound. You have Ta, which is the T sound, but it's dark. You have Va, which is the Z sound, but that's dark. And then you have Ein and you have Rein. Now, if you look at this chart, you'll notice that there's something here called Arabizi, which is, it's like a English, like a Latin phoneticism for Arabic words. And you'll notice there's like a 3 at the bottom where there's the Ein and the Rein. So as we get to that, I'll kind of explain that to you. But just notice that that's there. I just wanted to make that known so that you're not confused. So don't worry about the section that says Arabizi right now. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, if you notice the Ray and the Zay, remember those special letters that don't change? Well, Ray and Zay, oops. How did I even do that? Okay, there we go. Still learning how to use this this program. Ray and Zay are 2 of those letters that don't change shape, and they are going to look like, let me go ahead and get this ready. So for Ray, that is going to be this. It kind of looks like a D, like a dal almost, but not really. Like if I say Rais, which just means like head. Sometimes people use it for like president, but Rais, it just means head. Or sometimes you'll see well, I mean that's good enough, but this letter right here, and let me use this marker. That's Ray, and that's the R sound, Rais. Now, if you notice, nothing comes after. It doesn't connect to anything. The same thing with the second letter here, Zay. You see that letter? It doesn't connect to anything. And it looks very similar to Rais. So for instance, but it's just, it looks like this. It's the same thing, but it's got a dot at the top. And let me use the red marker for the dot so you can see that. All right? So, like the name Zayed, and I'm going to use like a transliteration for it. You could probably do something like this. Sometimes you'll see it like this. But let me put this here for the dot so you can see that. And then Zayed. Or sometimes you'll see it transliterated like this if we're not being lazy. Zayed. And then I'll put the dots here. All right, so that is the Z sound, Zayed, not to be confused with dal, or dal. Now, what's interesting here is that, notice, like I said, they don't connect to anything. You see this here? The letters after them don't connect to anything. So this is what makes it really easy to understand how to use these particular letters, because they don't connect. Like when you see them, you'll know that you don't really have to do too much after that. And typically, like it'll might be a little bit longer like that for Ray, and then for Zay it might look like that, because sometimes you can confuse it with dal and dal. But I mean, not really though. It just depends on like how it's written, but in the word you know what it is. But here on the right, let me change the color to like blue or something. Here on the right is Ray and Zay, and here on the left is dal and val. So those are the two letters so far that do not change, right? In this set right here. So we don't really have to worry too much about those. So that eliminates about 20% of the mental gymnastics that you will have to do. For the other 80%, you'll have to pay a little more attention, a little bit more than the last video. And that's because it gets a little tricky. But as I stated earlier, I'll give you like some cheat codes to make a little bit more sense for your English brain. So let's jump into those now. All right, so if you paid attention, you'll notice that some of these sounds we've already went over in the last video, and even in this chart right here, they're represented by the same consonants. And this is kind of the tricky thing that I was telling you about earlier, but I don't know if we went through the rest of these letters, but let me do it really quick so maybe you'll understand better what I'm saying. So we have Ray, which is the R sound. We have Zay, which is the Z sound. We have Seen, which is the S sound. And we have Sheen, which is the Sh sound. Now look, we have Sald, which is the S sound again, but it's darker. And then we have Dald, which is the D sound, but it's darker. Not to be confused with Dal from the last set of letters. I know, just stick with me. I'm going to make this very easy for you to understand. We also have Ta, which is darker than Te, but it's not the same sound. It's not the same letter. And we have La, which is the Z sound, but darker as well. It's represented by, it's just darker than Zay, okay? And then we have Ein and we have Rein. Like I said, I'll explain the three next to the Ein and the Rein later. But so if you notice, there are certain consonants or certain letters in Arabic that to an English speaker sound the same, but they are not. And it's kind of tricky because in English, we don't really have this issue since our language is pretty linear. Like an H is an H, right? Like an S is an S, a D is a D, so forth and so on. However, in Arabic, there are dimensions with these sounds that require a little bit of nuance. So let's let me give you an example real quick. In Arabic, there is the ha sound, and let me write this over here. There is the ha sound, and this is just an example. Now, you may remember this letter, we went over it. That's this letter, right? So there is the, let me just do it like this actually. There is the ha sound, and then there's the ha sound. Now, at first glance, they sound exactly the same. You're just like, whoa, that's exactly the same word. But in Arabic, this letter H is darker than this letter H. This letter H is a little bit lighter. And this letter H is a little bit darker. Well, it's a lot darker actually. And you'll hear the difference. So for instance, if I say, let's get a word. If I say marhaban, this letter H right here, you see it. Marhaban. Marhaban. Now, obviously, I'm overemphasizing it, but that just means welcome, right? Now, what's interesting is if I say, let's do ahlan or ahlan, ahlan. This means, I'm sorry, ahlan. This also means welcome. It's crazy. My English spelling is worse than my Arabic. But this letter H is lighter. So if you look at it like this, the first welcome, marhaban, very dark, but ahlan, very light, ahlan, ahlan, marhaban. So we have like a couple of letters in Arabic that do that. And let me see if I can import like a list of some of these letters so you can see what I'm talking about. So give me a second. Actually, let me just write it because that would be a little bit faster. And then I'll just make the distinction. So for instance, so far from what we've gone over, we'll have like, I'll just use this so you can know that this is separated from this. So let me go ahead and pull this up over here. So for instance, we have let me zoom in just a little bit. We have ta and we have ta, right? Now, these are going to be represented by the letter T, okay? We have sin and we have sob. This is going to be represented by the S sound. We have, there was dal, and we have dod, which is represented by the D sound. We also have, and this is just from what we've gone over so far, we have, actually, let me make this a little bit clearer. We have zay, and then we have zo, which is going to be like this with the dot. And that's going to be represented by the Z sound. And you could make a comparison between Aleph and Ayn, but that's a different conversation. So we have these four groups of letters that, depending on, and I'll use the red for lighter. These are the lighter versions, and I'll use blue for the darker. And these are the darker versions right here. That's the darker versions. Now, they both are represented by the same letter in English, but in Arabic, it is a little bit different. And they're like duplicate letters or alternative letters I like to use sometimes for like darker or something like that. But just for all intents and purposes, you could rightly say that it's like a evil twin or something like that, I guess. It's a bad dad joke. But the key to spotting them out is super simple. All you have to do is just listen to which one of these letters is darker and which one of them is lighter. All right, let me give you a chart to kind of make this make a little bit more sense. Let me see if I can import this chart really quick. Give me a second. Okay, let me bring this in really quick, this chart. All right, so this is one of the charts, and let me kind of move this over here so it's closer to everything else. So these are the letters as we saw earlier. So if you look, you have ta and you have ta, right? So that is represented here. I know it's kind of small. I don't really know if I can make that a little bit bigger without it kind of changing it. But that is the ta, and you have the ta. So if you notice, this first word right here, using the lighter version, is tarikh, which just means history. But if you notice the darker letter underneath it, talib, which just means student. Can you tell the difference between tarikh and talib? Well, tarikh is definitely lighter, right? I think we were using, what were we using for the lighter? The lighter was red. Tarikh is lighter than talib. So that's very easy, right? Like we're not, it's literally day and night, right? So another example here, let me erase these. We have, and I'll probably just use the what you call it for that instead of circling it like that. We have seen and we have sod. So using the seen, it's sama, which just means the sky. And then we have salah, which means prayer. Did you hear the difference? Sama, salah. This is clear day and night. So in that particular example, we have seen, which is lighter. And then we have sod, which is darker. So that's not too difficult in that one. You can hear the difference. What about the other one? We have dal and we have dod. So using dal, we have dars, which means lesson. But using dod, we have darb or daraba, like he hit, past tense. That one's pretty simple. It's the same thing over and over again. So using that one, we have the dal. Oops, sorry. That should be red. For lighter. And then we have dod. Let me use the right. That's the darker. And then the last one here, we have zay and we have lo, or zol, sorry. That one's a little bit tricky too. Using zay, we have zar, which just means like flower, right? Or a blossom more specifically. And then we have zulum, which just means like some form of injustice or oppression. So that one is going to be same situation. You can tell the difference. Zar, and then you have zulum. It's like I said, it's very simple. It only seems confusing if you look at it in a particular way where it's like, oh, I can't get it. It's day and night difference, right? So like I think that the key to this is just you're just gonna have to listen, and this is something that takes time. And I know like it seems difficult, but if you really practice this, you'll get it. I think probably the hardest thing for you guys is going to be the dod. And actually, this is why Arabic, ironically, is sometimes called lahka dod, like language of the dod, because very few languages have this type of sound in it. And it's going to be difficult for English pronouncers to speak. But I promise you, if you practice it and you continue to practice it, you will get it. Like it's not going to be, difficult at all. You just have to keep practicing it. Okay. So now the two letters listed last here are the ayn and the ghain. And if we haven't gone over all it, let's just retrack everything so far. So we've done ray, we've done zay, which is the R and the Z sounds. We've done seen and sheen, which is the S and the sh sound. We've done sod and dod, which is the S and the D sounds, but much darker or deeper. And then we've done ta and we've done lo, which are the T and the Z sounds, but darker. So now we're on ayn and we're on ghain. Now, as I stated, I was going to explain why we use 3 for these letters sometimes. The last 2 letters, ayn and ghain, are very difficult for English speakers to pronounce specifically, but there's also no way of kind of writing it without it being confused with maybe like an alif or something. Where can I go for this one? I don't want to erase anything, but let me kind of just put like a block Cade, like right here. Sometimes it can be confused with Aleph as opposed to Ain. If you're not familiar with the language, so sometimes because of this, we use the letter 3 for the letter Ain. So in Arabic, there's a form of transliteration, not to be confused with translation, but there's a form of transliteration into Latin letters, and this is called Arabizi. Or sometimes it's called like Franco-Arabic. So this is why you'll have like 3 or 3, if you notice there's a 3 with an apostrophe for Rein. And this was cultivated specifically like in the early days of computers and digital typing because software didn't really support Arabic script. So people naturally just got creative and started using Latin letters for the sounds that couldn't be written in the Arabic script. So like, for instance, let me go back over here. Oops. Trying to zoom out. Sorry, guys. So let me import a what you call it in here, like a chart to kind of get you guys to understand this a little bit better. Give me 1 second. So here's an example of a chart, right? And in this chart, let me move this up here. In this chart, you'll notice that there are Arabic letters, and then they are represented by Arabizi. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger, actually, without it throwing the resolution off. So, for instance, here on the left-hand side, you see where it says Arabic letter. You have Ain, which is represented by the number 3, and it resembles the shape of like 3 but backwards. You have Ha, which is the H sound, but the deep H sound, which is represented by the number 7, and it resembles the shape of like a 7. You see it there. Khe is represented by 5. Sounds like Khe and looks kind of similar. Qaf, we haven't got to that letter as yet, but it's represented by the number 8. That's like the Q sound, but because there's no equivalent in English, they use the number 8. It's weird. Like, that's why I said we'll get to that letter, but I'm just giving you like the Arabic. So if you see it, you have Rein, which is represented by 3 and an apostrophe, or sometimes in English we say like GH. And it's like Ain, but with a R sound. You have Ta, which is represented by the number 6. It's an emphatic or a deep T. You have Va, or Tha, it's like a Z sound, but it's represented by 6 apostrophe, emphatic Z sound. And then you have Hamza, represented by 2, and it's a glottal stop. And we've gone over that in the last video, but that letter is sometimes represented by the number 2. So as I said, you'll notice that the Ain and the Rein have slightly different representations, with a 3 for Ain, and then you have like a 3 apostrophe for Rein. Now, obviously, this is going to be pretty helpful if you're still learning. I don't know why this thing keeps turning like this. So it's going to be like really helpful if you're still learning Arabic and you can't quite grasp all of the letters, or you're in a hurry and you need to write something quickly into English. But it's completely informal, right? So if you're writing something academic or something very important to send to a boss or something like that, you'll never see this as a substitute for actual Arabic. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. So with that being said, Ain is what we call a pharyngeal sound, simply meaning that it's a sound that comes from the back of your throat. So you'll be able to notice the difference between certain words. And let me see if I can import another chart in here. Okay, so notice this chart right here. Pull this up. Okay, so here's 2 words. You have Amal and you have Amal. Now, I'm overemphasizing on purpose so you can hear the difference. Sometimes in spoken Arabic, you won't hear the difference too much. But if you notice, one is written, and I'll just write it below it so you can kind of get a better idea. Sometimes you have to see it written. So you have amal, which is like this. I don't want to use red ink. I want to use my black ink. You have amal, right? And that just means hope. Hope. Okay. Now it's represented by the letters Aleph, Meme, and Lam. Lam we haven't gotten to as yet. I'm just using this as an example, so don't worry. And let me see, I can probably just write this to the side over here. And then we have, or I'll just write it below it. And then we have Amal. So that is spelled, let me change this back to black. And then you have Amal. So that's using a Ain. So if you notice here, they sound very similar, if not stressed. I mean, if not stressed, they sound very similar. And amal just means work or to labor, as they stated. But this is a really good example of when you would use Arabizi. Because sometimes if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake Ain for Aleph here, right? So, oops, I didn't even know you could do that. See, look, I'm learning new things out about this software like every day, man. I didn't even know I could do that. Now it's like sideways and stuff. And anyways, if you're not paying attention, you can mistake Ain for Aleph. And like I said, this is where Arabizi can be important for English speakers. But if you really listen, you'll hear the subtle differences between the two words. Amal is like darker. Amal. Let me go ahead and get my little arrow thing out. Amal is darker, or in this particular situation, I'll say it's tighter than Amal. Amal just means hope. Amal, which it just means to work, right? So it's Amal is like a tighter sound, like a rope. Like imagine you have a rope around your Aleph and you're tightening it. Now it becomes Amal, like you're squeezing it, Amal. And Ghain is similar. Let me see if I can get another picture for that too. I'll put the picture over here. We'll get like a little thing here. Give me 1 second. Let me get a picture for you guys. All right. Ghain is similar. And if we look at this chart here, sorry for the resolution. It's just the way it is. Remember how we were using like you tying a rope around Aleph and then you get Ain, you're making it tighter. Ghain is similar. It also comes from the back of your mouth, but with a tightened kh sound. So like for instance, look at these two words. You have kharaja, which means to leave or to go out. And then you have ghayra, which means like he changed something. So I'll write them out so you can kind of see it. And I will use my black. So, because the resolution is kind of bad. So you have kharaja. And that just means to like go out or to leave. Let me put the diacritical markings in red. Kharaja. And then you have, let me change this now to black. And then you have ghayyara. Get my diacritical markings. I'll use. And in this particular situation, it's a little complicated because I can't get that dot quite right. There we go. Because you're going to see this called a shadda. We haven't got to that as yet, so don't worry about it. But this is ghayyara. And that means like he changed, or he changed something. changed, right? Like I said, we haven't gone over shadda as yet, which is the little W thing with the fatha on top. We haven't gone over shadda as yet, so don't worry about it. But I'm just using this as an example, okay? So I'll use the green to circle it so you can see the difference. So this is ghain and this is khe. Now, if you notice here, khe comes from the back of your throat when you pronounce it, but ghain also comes from the back of your throat. So imagine you're tying a rope around khe. So then it becomes ghain, ghain. So kharaja, which means to go out. And then you have ghayra, which means like he changed something or somebody changed something. So it's the exact same letter, but it just seems a little more stifled. So that's going to be a really easy way for you to understand it. But notice with these two letters, if you're going to use Arabizi, remember as we stated earlier, I'll use yellow. This one is going to be the letter 3 with an apostrophe after it. And then this one is going to be just the letter 3. And if you notice how they wrote it for this one for ghayra, theoretically you could say 3, Y-A-R-A, ghayra. And then for this one, you can just say amil, amil. So, like I said, this is a case where Arabizi would be good to use. But again, don't get so hung up on using it all the time, because like that's not necessarily formal. So practice these sounds. They come from the back of your throat. And don't worry if you don't get it on the first time. It just, like I said, takes time. So that's going to be all the letters that we've done so far in this video. I'm going to show you the different forms. So how they appear in the middle and at the end of sentences. I think I have a chart for that. And then from there, you can go and use the worksheet to understand them. But one last time, remember, and this is really just like a tip and a hint for you guys, to be completely honest with you. In Arabic, specifically just from what we've gone over in the Arabic alphabet, you can understand that there's reoccurring patterns and themes. Like everything so far has been borrowed techniques from other things that we've gone over already, even some of the letters. Like, don't overwork yourself trying to understand everything. Look for patterns. If you focus on the patterns instead of trying to learn everything in its little intricacies, you'll find that you'll learn the language faster. And you'll transfer that over to reading, and speaking it when we get into those sections. So look for patterns. Don't make this more complicated than it has to be. And watch this video as many times as you need to, just so you can understand it and so you can get it, okay? So let's move on to the different forms that they take if they're at the beginning, middle, or the end. Okay, so I do have a chart, this one right here, going over the isolated, the initial, the middle, and the final. But the way that it's set up is this is backwards, and I don't want to use it this way. I tried to like import it into like a AI tool to get it to like write it for me because I was being lazy. I wanted it to like make the chart for me, but it didn't understand the intricacies of Arabic where that's concerned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bite the bullet on this one and just write it myself. So let me go ahead and start this and we'll go through it together. And this will be kind of better this way anyways, because then I won't have to actually do another video kind of explaining this. So the first letter we have is Ray, which is the R sound, Ray. And that's it by itself. If it's at the beginning of a word, it looks like that. Nothing comes after it. If it's in the middle, it looks like this. Sometimes you'll see it. Sometimes you'll see it like that. But nothing comes after it. Like nothing can come after it. This is one of those letters, so you don't have to worry too much about that one, right? And actually, let me just do it like this because I kind of want it to be a little organized. So we'll have something like, this is isolated, I'll do it like that. This is beginning, do it like that. This is middle, and then this is like final, do it like that. And then, all right, so if it's at the beginning, so if it's isolated, it's like that. If it's at the beginning, it's like that. If it's in the middle, it's like that. If it's at the end, it's like that. Now, remember how I said we were doing with the other thing? I said, look for patterns, right? So the next letter is gonna be Zay. It's the same thing. And I'll use a red one for the dots so you can see those. Let me make this a little bit. There we go. I don't know if you can, that makes sense, but at the beginning, at the beginning it's like that. I'm not gonna keep changing it because of the thing, but there's the dot. In the middle, sometimes it's like that. That's bad. Let me change it like this. You'll see it like that. And at the end, it's the same thing. And again, excuse the chicken scratch writing thing here. It's just because I'm using like a stylus, so it's not going to be as neat. But in the worksheet down below, it'll be a little bit clearer for you guys. Okay. So then we have. Keep drawing the lines. I'm gonna make these lines pretty long, actually. The next one we have seen. So at the beginning, it looks like, beginning it looks like this. Now, in its beginning shape, it looks like this. In its middle shape, it looks like that. In its middle shape, it looks like this. And its ending shape looks like this, okay? And then we have sheen, which is the exact same thing, but the dots on this one, 3 dots, 2, 3. And for this one, in its beginning shape, with the 3 dots. Let me see. Those dots are so small. I'm trying to see if I can make them a little bit bigger. Let me see if I can use like a, will this be a bit better for the dots? Yeah, there we go. That's better. In the middle form, just like, just like seen, but it's just got 3 dots on it. Sorry, I'm trying my best with this stylus, but you get the idea here. And like I said, in the worksheet, it'll be a little bit easier. I'm starting to run out of space on this paper. I think I'm gonna have to move over in the next little bit. Then we have Dod. I'm sorry, we have Sod. Oh man, this stylus is really bad, man. Sorry, guys. In its initial shape, we have it like this. Middle shape, like that. And then its ending shape is gonna be like this. Okay, let me move over. I'm gonna do the exact same thing, but on the other side. Again, guys, be patient with me. It's just the stylus, man. It's just, the stylus sucks. We're gonna do the same thing here. So we have isolated, beginning, middle, and final. And The next one is dod. It's like this, but this one has a dot at the top. And it's the same as the sod because it's the same family. And then there's the dot. Middle. And then the ending. Just like that with the dot. Let's move on to ta. This is it, isolated. It looks like a B. This is it at the beginning. This is it in the middle. And this is it at the end. So that one doesn't really change too much. But it does change. Then we have law. It's the same thing. Oops, sorry, gave too much slack there. But with a dot at the top. And like I said, on the worksheet, this is gonna look way clearer. It's just the stylus I'm using sucks really bad. This is it at the beginning. This is it at the middle. And this is it at the end. Oops. Oh, sorry. So if you notice, it's the same thing as ta. Now we're going to move on to ein and rein. This is ein at the beginning. This is ein isolated. This is ein at the beginning. This is ein in the middle. So this one changes a little bit. So pay attention to that. And this is ein at the end. And then finally, the last one, rein, looks exactly like the ein, but with a dot. This is ein. This is rein at the beginning, sorry. This is rein in the middle, and then this is rein at the end. Make that dot a little bit clearer. And that's all of them. So just like last time, there's groupings that you'll notice. See if I can move this out a little bit. I can't move it out anymore. There's groupings that you'll notice that stay the same, except like they're exactly the same, even when they change shape, depending on where they are in the word. The only difference is the dots. That's basically it. It's not that difficult. Let me use a blue just to show you the groupings like last time. So that's a grouping. This is a grouping. You had sod and you had dod. That's a grouping. This is a grouping. I don't know why that red box appeared. And this is a grouping. So you have groupings of twos for each one, and if you notice, they all look the same. Now, if you want a clearer picture of this, definitely check out the worksheet in the description box. And make sure you fill it out and send it back to me. Yeah, that's really it. We've done a lot in this video. We've gone over the letters, we've gone over examples. So if you're unclear on anything, just go back and rewatch the video and make sure you do that worksheet, man. It's gonna make this a little bit easier for you and it's gonna make a little bit more sense, guys, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this one. Just make sure that you watch the first one, watch this one, and we have one more video left and then we are done. Other than that, make sure you stay tuned, watch out for the next video. We'll be going over the last set of Arabic letters, and then the video after that, we're gonna start reading, okay? And going over very small grammar rules, okay? So other than that, guys, bye for now. See you in the next video. Ma salama.